morning, friends, and welcome to the Anchor Church Online. This is a special Sunday. It's a Sunday of remembrance and a Sunday of gratefulness. Today, I want to invite you to take a moment of reflection with us. In the midst of the struggles and the hardships that you and I face every single day, it becomes really easy oftentimes to forget those who have sacrificed so much, really paving the way for the freedoms that you and I enjoy each day. This Memorial Day, we want to honor the men and women who have served and sacrificed for our country in the armed forces. We honor the mother and fathers, the wives, and the husbands, the sons and daughters who have willingly sacrificed for our freedom. Today, we remember the families that have lost a child or spouse in the service of our country, and we honor the children who grow up without the presence of their mom or dad because of the ultimate sacrifice that they paid. We're grateful for your service. We're grateful for your sacrifice. And this morning, I want to invite you to join me in a moment of silence as we honor the men and women who have died defending our freedoms and our country.
Good morning, Anchor fam. It's so great to see all of you this morning, and we hope you guys are doing great, and we're excited to be doing church online with you today. Be sure to drop a comment, let us know you're here. We as a leadership team are ready to engage with you guys, whether it's through prayer requests or through things you're going through in life, or even if you just want to have a little fun, we're here for that too. Hit the share button and share this online experience to your personal timeline. The way that the hope and love of Jesus can get out to people is through this experience. And if you share or hit the share button, that is giving an opportunity to someone to get to know who Jesus is. The worship team is going to come up and lead us here in a couple seconds in a few songs. I encourage you to engage at the level that you feel comfortable. Today, whether you're at home, in your car, or in the office, use this time to connect with God. Lift up your voice, raise your hands, even posture your heart to listen to what God has for you. He loves you, and He wants to do deep personal relationship with you. Here's our worship team to lead us in worship.
The power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger, the King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder. The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order, who makes the orphan a son and daughter, the King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance, the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you slain. And worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Before the start, before the end, as far as east is from the west, measureless. From open sky to ocean depths, more than man can comprehend, measureless. Your love is without limits. Your love is constant. Your love goes on forever. Your love is endless. Your love is overwhelming. I can't contain it. Your love, your love, your love is endless. Oh, how vast and oh, how wide, far beyond all space and time, measureless. Your love is without limit. Your love is constant. Your love goes on forever. Your love is endless. Your love is overwhelming. I can't contain it. Your love, your love, your love is endless. hearts will cry, these bones will sing. And great are you, Lord, and all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. And great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you holy. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. And great are you, Lord.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for this morning, God. Thank you that we have a worship team that's willing to come in here and serve us by just leading us in a few songs to be able to worship you and praise you for all the things that you have done, Lord. Lord, I pray that you continue to pour into us, and Lord, that through this message that, Lord, you speak through Pastor Alex and what he has to say for this time, God. Lord, I pray that today our hearts are open and our minds are relaxed so that we can understand exactly what you have in store for us through this week and through the rest of today. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you to the worship team for coming up and singing a few songs for us today. Go ahead and show them some appreciation in the comment section. We love our worship team. We love for you guys to engage as well. And pressing even the heart react is a great way to engage and to show some appreciation. If you don't know already, here at Anchor, we love to believe that you cannot do life alone. So I encourage you to engage with us in the comment section throughout Pastor Alex's message and throughout the rest of the service. This way, we can get to know you better, have a little bit of fun, but also get to really be serious about what God is learning through or trying to show us through our lives. We encourage you to check in on Facebook as well and, tag us in the picture on Instagram. Every single check-in that you guys are doing this month is going to make a difference through Vitamin Angels. This is our partner that we've been with for this whole month, and they're great. They provide life-giving vitamins to children all around the world while sharing the love and the gospel of Jesus to each of those kids. So you can find more information about Vitamin Angels by going to www.vitaminangels.org. Now here's Pastor Alex with today's message.
Happy Memorial Day weekend, Anchor family. So grateful you're joining us for our online service today. Thank you for taking the opportunity and checking in to Facebook or tagging us on Instagram, helping us support Vitamin Angels, something that's near and dear to our hearts as a church. We've several times over the last year been able to give to Vitamin Angels, providing life-giving supplements and life-giving vitamins to people all around the world as a way to introduce them to Jesus. So thankful that you have decided to do that today. Maybe you're not able to do it right now. Do that as soon as the service is over. Take a picture, check in, tag us on Instagram. Be so grateful, and really want to send a special shout out to all of you who are being generous through this season with your giving. Thank you so much for remaining faithful. I want to share an awesome thing. We had somebody for the very first time send a tithe check to the church last week. Man, you need, give it up in the comments for somebody taking that step of faith and giving and tithing. It's a part of our culture of who we are. We believe you can't outgive God, and so even during the season of social distancing and a lot of uncertainty with incomes and jobs, somebody took that step of faith to be generous and to tithe and to give. And maybe today you haven't taken that step. I want to encourage you. You need to. It is so beneficial to your life. It will unleash unbelievable blessing. It will unleash just an incredible sense of gratitude in your heart when you give. You can give online today anchorlawrence.com. On the top right corner of the screen, you'll see a Give tab, and I promise you it's safe, it's secure. You can give through a debit card, a credit card, a bank account, whichever you feel most comfortable with, whatever's most convenient for you. You can also mail a check into the church, and you can find that address on our website, but it'll also be coming in the comments section if you would rather do that than give online. Well, while you're on the website, maybe you've missed out on the last first message in our series and on StayCations. I encourage you, go back to anchorlawrence.com. You can watch that message. I hope it'll bring benefit and value to your life. You can just click on that messages tab, and that'll be able to take you right to it. And so we are going to jump right in today into week 2 of our series on StayCation. And I want to give you a word, and I'd love to hear in the comments section. Drop a comment, whatever, drop a line. Let me know, what do you think about the word discipline? I don't know about you, but it's my favorite word. Yeah, right. It says no one ever, right? Discipline. That's not something we like to hear. Some of us, we are very disciplined in our schedule. Some of us are very cavalier in our schedule. Some of us are very disciplined in our work. Some of us, we don't take work as serious as we should, or we're not very disciplined in our faith. And that word discipline's tough because it challenges us. So I was kind of trying to do some research. This idea of StayCations. Last week we talked specifically about StayCations with Jesus, or StayCations with some values. And we shared with some very practical values you could start introducing into your home. But this week we want to focus on the word discipline. Discipline is to teach and it's to train. And people, when you're talking about StayCations, you talk about kids, you talk about families. There's a lot of times, especially people who don't have kids, they have these, these preconceived ideas of what parenting looks like. They think it's all about changing diapers, 3 a.m. feeding, sleepless nights. We drain our bank accounts for endless activities. Almost like we're being a general manager of chaos. You know what I'm talking about? Moms, dads out there, I'm talking about that. Being a general manager of just craziness. In Brooke and I's life, we call this Crazy Town. Right? You probably see, if you follow either one of us on social media, anytime that we have a post or something with our kids or family related, we always hashtag it Crazy Town. It's part of who we are. It's like become a calling card for our family. But part of the reason why we call it that is just not just the craziness, but there are times that Brooke and I have failed, that we feel like we have failed as parents. I'm talking about those parenting fails. Maybe, I know you're probably perfect in your parenting, and so, failing, you've not failed, and, you've never disappointed your kids, or you've never disciplined them inappropriately, or you've never scolded them inappropriately. You're the perfect parent. I get it. I know. Well, I'm not that. And so, but have you, maybe you're out there and you can kind of resonate with that. You've done something that you feel like you have failed, right? Mom, dad, that feeling of failure, the feeling that you've let your kids down. And if you feel comfortable, I would love for you to share in the comments during this time. Maybe what's a time that you feel like you failed your kids? And it's like, you look back and it's like, I wish I could have done something different. I wish I'd have acted a different way. I wish I'd have said something different. And, I can think back to when Aiden was a baby. And he wouldn't sleep at night, right? No matter what we tried, he just wouldn't sleep, and it was frustrating. Brooke was aggravated, and I can't say that I knew too much because I was still so young, and I was working so much that when I fell asleep, I didn't even hear him. But yet he would stay awake, all hours of the night, just crying. Now, what's funny is I slept through all that. Then now that they're getting older, they could barely move on a set of stairs, and I hear it, even if they're in the basement and I'm sleeping in our room upstairs. Like I'm immediately awake. It's Brooke laughs because it's funny how things have kind of come full circle. But no matter what we tried with Aiden, no matter what Brooke tried, there was nothing, like he wouldn't sleep. And during the day, he would never get enough food. And if you've ever had a meal with Aiden now, you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah, the kid's a human garbage disposal, but yet he's like a stick in size. And it's just because he runs and he's so active. But it was like he always cried. He never had enough food. But as a dad, it always bothered me. And the thing that bothered me the most was just that constant, loud, obnoxious crying. It wasn't just like this like a slow sob. I mean, it was just obnoxious, and it was loud, and it was ear-piercing. I was just like, oh. And in the beginning, I'm going to be honest with you, in the beginning as a new dad, it was incredibly annoying, and I was like, why won't you just be quiet, And the adjustment, it wasn't really his fault, but it was me not being able to adjust to dad life, which was so much harder and so much tougher than I ever imagined. But really the problem that I think I was really having was there was nothing I could do to get him to stop crying. Everything I tried, I kept feeling like a failure. It's like I didn't have that magic touch. And I remember when, right after he was born, and the nurse is like, you should hold him like a football. And I put my finger like on the point of his head, like, wait a second, this isn't how you don't hold him like a foot, you know what I mean? And I just didn't have that touch to try and calm the situation, and it was frustrating. I'm me being the male figure in the home. Aiden was crying, which means there is a problem. And as a male, I'm wired in DNA to fix the problem. Husbands, when you try to fix a problem your wife is telling you about, that's not really a problem. She just needs you to shut up and listen. You know what I'm talking about? Those kind of problems that we set out to fix, that it's really just, they want somebody there in the present. But the fact that I couldn't fix his crying means I couldn't fix the problem, which made me feel like I was failing as a dad. And I know years later that it's like, it's just kind of part of it. Kids go through seasons and things happen. But at the end of the day, it was like, in the moments, it was like, what else can be done? Where am I going wrong? What am I doing wrong? And just these constant questions and these feelings of insecurities and these feelings of failures overwhelmed me as a dad, so that it started to affect how I parent. Parenting is hard work, right? Parenting is hard. Parenting requires work. I was 21 years old when Brooke was 22 years old when Aiden was born, right? We were young, and for the most part, we were pretty dumb, right? 21 years old. Brooke was 22. And then adding a baby to our young marriage, you know what it did? It caused stress. It was incredibly stressful. It caused nervousness. It caused so much anxiety. But then it hit me one day, right? We're dealing with these things, and we used to call Aiden the burrito baby, because the only way he would ever go to sleep and sometimes stop crying is if you wrapped him so tight in a blanket that he couldn't even move. We're talking super, super tight. And I started realizing that as a parent, this one day, this just hit me. As a parent, my job is simple, yet incredibly complex. Right, the job of a parent is simple but incredibly complex, and I learned, and this hit me. It was just very the simplicity of what my primary responsibility is, and maybe for you, mom, maybe for you, dad, this is going to revolutionize how you parent, because there's really one responsibility you have as a parent, and if you get this right, everything else takes care of itself. Okay, my job as a dad is to raise my kids to be fully developed followers of Jesus. That's primary. That's supposed to be first. And every once in a while, we need to take a staycation away from what we think our responsibility is and get right with Christ in our own personal life, so that we can help our kids get right in their life with Christ, right? It's a simple task, but hard to execute, right? This is a simple task. Okay, I know I need to help my kids find Christ for themselves. I need to raise them in an environment that encourages their spiritual growth, that encourages them to take faith steps, encourages their generosity, encourages them to serve other people, encourages them to love, right? A simple task, but hard to execute without, I hope you get it, right? You remember what we're talking about today? Without discipline. Discipline is essential, right? It is essential to raising your kids, right? It's essential in raising your kids to help them grow as followers of Jesus, right? Discipline is necessary. Discipline is appropriate. Discipline is needed, right? Today we're going to be reading from Hebrews chapter 12. We're going to be starting in verse 5, all right? And if you have your Bibles, turn with me or open a new tab, jump over to Bible.com, or if you can pull your phone up if you're not on it. We're going to be in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 5 through 11, okay? And the Apostle Paul says this, "And you have completely forgotten this word of encouragement that addresses you as a father addresses his son." It says, "My son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline. Do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastens everyone he accepts as his son. Endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as his children. For what children are not disciplined by their father? If you are not disciplined, and everyone undergoes discipline, then you are not legitimate, not true sons and daughters at all. Moreover, we have all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of spirits and live?" Get that? Submit to the Father and live. We've been talking for, oh my goodness, since the beginning of the year, abundant life. Discipline will help us and guide us towards abundant life. All right, let's go back. They disciplined us for a little while as they thought best, but God disciplines us for our good in order that we may share in his holiness. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Right? I mean, think about that. I'm going to kind of push the pause button for just a second. Think about that. No discipline seems pleasant at the time of the discipline. It is painful. But let's go back. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Discipline is not pleasant. It's not painful. But what it does is it produces a harvest of righteousness, right? A harvest of righteousness. Paul says this, do not make light of the Lord's discipline. Do not lose heart when he rebukes you. Why? Because the Lord disciplines those who he loves. Right? Discipline is part of the love. So when you are talking about discipline in your own life, you're talking about discipline as a parent. You know, you don't discipline people you don't love. If you really care about yourself, being disciplined in your work ethic, being disciplined in your studies as a student, being disciplined in your exercise as an athlete, being disciplined, you discipline those who you love as a mom, as a dad, and helping your kids understand the value of discipline, right? Think about this. Think of this just for a second. Here's Paul says, that without discipline, we are not true sons and daughters, right? Without it, we are not true sons and daughters, which means it is the discipline process. It's that discipline process that teaches us to value our relationship with God, right? Because without it, we're not true sons and daughters. When through that discipline process, we learn to value our role as God's sons and daughters, right? That our relationship with God is the most important for every family, for every individual. Nothing should get in your way. Nothing should get in my way of my relationship with God. Nothing should get in between that. My relationship with God should be of utmost importance, right? Mom and dad, we should be leading our kids with having our priorities in line. God should be first above everything. We should lead the way. Don't try to lead them somewhere you're not willing to go. You know, I remember I've been told all my life you can't lead anybody somewhere you haven't been. You know, when you're leading, and as a mom and as a dad, you're called to be a leader. You're called to be an authority. You can't lead your kids where you haven't been. God should be above everything. Right? So it's also that discipline process that affirms our commitment to growth. Right? It affirms our commitment to growth. Kids need to be taught young how they should live. Don't wait until they become teenagers. Start showing that, model that early on in life. But if the adage is true, right? If I'm going to model it, if the adage is true that things are better caught than taught, we should be teaching our kids about being fully developed followers of Jesus by us, by mom, by dad, by me, by anybody, any adult who has kids, or even anybody who doesn't have kids, who you're around, any kind of teenager, young adult, college student, at any moment, you are an influence. How do we help model this? How do we help teach this? By being the fully developed followers of Jesus ourselves and having the discipline to grow in becoming a fully developed follower of Jesus. It means I live what I teach. And I hope that's true for you. I wish as a dad I could always say, I could say that's always the case. But unfortunately it's not. I'm still young. I'm still growing. I'm still learning, and still God is developing me as a follower of Him, but also as a father. And it's just a constant growth process. And that's where the discipline comes in. As Paul says, discipline is not pleasant. Discipline is painful. It's not pleasant, that stretching of the boundaries, that growth away from what you thought you needed versus what you know is right, being able to walk away from what you think is right and walk to what God has instructed you is right. But I don't know about you, that discipline I received as a young child, when I was younger, I didn't see the value of it. You know what I'm talking about? Too many times we parents, we just try to help our kids see the value in it. But there's a lot of times you're going to discipline your kids, and you're going to have disciplines in your life that you're not going to see the value of it until later on in life when you're faced to cross bridges and that are tough. You're forced to make tough decisions. Being taught through my parents' actions, I'm telling you from my personal story, being taught through my parents' actions has helped me know what to do and what not to do in my life with my kids and with my decisions. There seems to be a common this common fear and a misconception among parents today that if I discipline my kids, then I'm mean and they're going to grow up to hate me. And if you're parenting with that fear inside of you, then it's time for you to have a StayCation with discipline. But you have to let God involved. You have to let health be connected to your discipline process, because this mindset is in direct opposition. Pretty much, I could put it like this way. This mindset is in direct rebellion to God's word. We see here that Paul is clearly saying God is going to discipline us. He has blessed us with kids, which has called us to be an authority. That means we have to take that role in their life. God loves us perfectly, and he disciplines us for our good. That discipline you have for your kids, that discipline you're trying to create in yourself, is for your good. It's for their good. So we will learn, right? So they can learn what not to do, learn correct behavior. But I hope you understand this, right? It's for their good. It's so they can learn, but it's so they could have abundant life as a result. Isn't that what you want for your kids? Isn't that what you want for yourself? Where so many parents start to derail their discipline is they fail to communicate. Have you ever seen a ship, right? I'm going to illustrate it like this. Have you ever illustrate it like this? Have you ever seen a ship with all the cargo on one side, right? You should sometime, go talk with Pastor Dalton about the job that he had in Norman, Oklahoma, where he forecasted for big, huge cargo ships, and he'll show you pictures of things that it's crazy. These big cargo ships with these big storage containers. But have you ever seen a ship with all of the cargo loaded on one side? No. You wouldn't do that, right? If that did happen, you would probably be questioning the judgment of the captain of that ship, right? You would be like, I want off of this if you happen to be on it. Because what would happen to that ship? It's going to capsize and sink, right? This is the same thing with parenting. The balance of honest communication and healthy discipline, because kids need both, right? When you're trying to be disciplined in something in your life, if you just stop immediately and try to do a 180-degree turn, chances are you're going to be quickly disciplined, but you're going to fall away from that really quickly because you've not really had an honest conversation with yourself about why I need this discipline. It's the honest communication tied with the healthy discipline so that we can see growth. It's imperative that kids know why discipline is necessary. That's imperative. That you can't just discipline them and not let them know why this is necessary and then communicate with them the correct behavior. Kids need teammates. Kids need friends. Kids need allies. Kids need authority. And mom and dad, you cannot be everything. Now, I want you to think about that for just a second. Yes, kids need teammates. Yes, kids need allies. And yes, kids need authorities. Kids need to know they feel loved. And you can show that love through the way you respect and hold with honor your responsibility as an authority figure in their life. If friendship is your target, then discouragement's going to be your destination. If friendship is your target with your kids, discouragement's where you're going to land, right? God has called you to be an authority, not a friend. Mom and dad, do not shy away from healthy discipline. Your primary title in life, get this, your primary title in life is to be mom and dad, not employee, not employer, right? You need to have a StayCation with your kids and let them know that you are going to take that title seriously. Parents wrongly feel that making their kids like them will help lead them to love them and discipline, right? If your kids do not respect you as an authority, then it's your responsibility to teach them that respect. Yes, it could mean that you're going to have some nights that your kids are going to go to bed and not talk with you. Yes, it could mean that your kids are going to go to their room and be very silent. Yes, you've got to be willing to go, my role as mom and dad comes with an authority, and that carrying the title of authority is an honor. It's an honor. Treat that title with the honor and respect it deserves. Do not abuse it. Right? That's where we start to derail the train, is we start thinking, wow, man, I'm mom, I'm dad, I can just do whatever I want. They just need to, be quiet and listen to me. But if you treat that role as mom and dad with the honor and respect that it deserves, and you carry that role of authority with honor, there will be a time when the tides will start to shift towards friendship. But mom, dad, loved one, that time is not now. I'm 35 years old, right? And just last week had a conversation with my dad, and I love and I'm so grateful and honored that I still have my dad around that I can call. And I made the statement to him on the phone, truthfully. If you see him, you could ask him. I said, Dad, please just tell me what to do. Right? I mean, I'm 35. You would think at this point, I don't need my dad to tell me what to do, but I just made the statement, Dad, please tell me what to do. And he simply said, son, I cannot do that. I responded, Dad, I just need my dad to tell me if I'm going to be okay, right? Thinking about making some big life transitions and making decisions and how's that going to affect my family. I needed my dad to tell me I was going to be okay. And he had he had a profound advice. He just said, if God is leading you, then I'm going to be more than okay. You see, I was raised with the discipline to put my faith first. My faith is a discipline that I learned because I caught it from my mom and my dad. You know, my parents weren't perfect. Far from it, if you want to ask me. You know, I could tell you stories of over and over and over again that it's like, oh, I did not like how that happened. But my parents weren't perfect. But what they got right was they raised me, right, to be a follower of Jesus. They didn't raise kids who are financially rich. Like I don't know about you. You know, I'm not driving around in six-figure cars. I don't live in a big, huge house, you know, that everybody can see. My parents didn't raise kids who are financially rich. They didn't raise kids who would be truthfully considered worldly successful. Our bank accounts aren't endless. You know, we don't have credit cards that have no charge, but you know, we don't have credit cards that we can just charge any amount we want. You know, like there's no balance. We have an endless amounts of credit that we can charge against. But what I can tell you that my parents did well, and you can see this, and if you were to meet myself and my brother and my sister, you could see this. They raised kids who care for people. They raised kids who value people. They raised kids who love people. They raised kids who love God. Which means we may not be worldly successful, but I promise you'd be hard-pressed to find another family who's more eternally successful than our family. And it all starts with how our parents chose to love us through healthy discipline and honest communication. And all of it, because that's what it all points back to. You know, our ship in our life was not overloaded on one side. It was balanced. You know, balance. That's hard. For me, maybe not for you, but it is. But like, where do I draw the line between work and church and my faith and my kids, their sports, their activities, everything that they have to do, friendships, balance? One of the things that I've learned, the older I get, as far as in the more, I would say mature I get in my parenting, but Brooke would tell you I'm incredibly immature, and she's absolutely correct. But balance is one of the healthiest cultures I can teach my kids. But the problem is the American dream doesn't promote balance. You know, balance in our work life, balance in our youth sports life, balance in our friendships, balance in our financial endeavors, right? Excess of anything not Christ-centered is unhealthy. You know, if that means my ship is weighted to one side or the other. Anything that's not Christ-centric, anything that's not Christ-related, anything that's not Christ-centered in excess is unhealthy. Mom and Dad, if you work 60 hours a week, then you should expect your kids to work 80 hours a week when they have kids. Right? Do you really want that for your grandkids? I mean, that's a culture that you're setting in. And I believe in teaching your kids to have a healthy work ethic. But I also believe in teaching your kids that their most important role in life is to be mom and dad, which means one of the most important things they should do is be present. Finances aside, if you provide for your kid but you're not present for your kid, what have they gained in the end? Because what you do in moderation, your kids will do in excess if they're not taught how to have balance. Our faith is the only thing that we should indulge our entire lives in. Your faith is it. We have to teach our kids the discipline of balance. There's not a secret formula to honest conversation and healthy discipline, but what I can tell you, what I believe to be the primary way you derail the train before it ever gains momentum, you know what I mean? The momentum of having healthy discipline, having healthy conversation. The thing that derails the train the fastest is inconsistency. Inconsistencies. You know, you need consistent conversation. Your kids need consistent discipline, right? You both need it. That relationship needs consistent conversation and consistent discipline. Inconsistency sends a mixed signal to your kids. Inconsistencies in how you choose to discipline compared to your spouse. You know, if your child has multiple homes with multiple parents because you and your spouse have divorced or split up, inconsistencies in how your child is disciplined from one home to the other, right? That sends a mixed signal to your child. Like, so if they get disciplined for one thing at one home, then they get disciplined for another thing at another home, you've got to be in constant conversation with your team because your kids need consistency. They have to have it. If Brooke and I chose to discipline our kids and our values were different, we would be communicating inconsistency to our kids. One of the greatest disciplines that God is pushing me toward in my life at this very moment, right? This is where God is like pushing me and challenging me is consistent obedience in the same direction, right? And if you think about that from the concept of discipline, consistency in what we are preaching, consistency in what we are teaching, because discipline takes a team. You can't do it by yourself. It's you, it's your spouse, it's your ex, it's your ex's spouse. But most importantly, right, when you're disciplining kids, most important part of the team is God. And it's all of those entities, right, working together in unity. We talked about unity last week. All the work and all the effort goes in unity. All the conversations are in unity. All the discipline is unity. Now, real quick, I want to kind of sidebar here. I want to briefly talk with those who may be watching live. You don't have kids of your own. You know, you're single. You're a college student. I don't know. Maybe you're a young adult. Maybe you're a young married couple who's trying to have kids, but you don't have kids of your own. I want to just address and talk with you really on a personal level for just a quick minute. You can do a great service to parents by being a great representative of what being a fully developed follower of Jesus looks like. That's how you can be of help, right? One of the greatest obstacles parents face is the influence of other people in their kids' life. They see someone these kids see someone they want to be like. They see someone that they want to imitate. But I want to encourage you, and in fact, actually, let me rephrase this. I want to challenge you to make sure that when my kids, right, you'll see my kids, running around church. You'll see my kids running around. We have lots of young families. And for all of you who attend Anchor, I hope you take this to heart. Make sure that when they see you, they see Christ. Make sure your faith is worth imitating, right? You have influence. And the moment you think, well, I just walk through the door, I don't say anything to anybody, I don't interact, I don't see kids, they see that. You have influence because kids are watching. Other kids in the community are watching. I remember when my kids were around college students, when we were campus pastors at KU, and Brooke and I were pretty young and leading a ministry for students who really weren't that much younger than we were, and it's pretty crazy because Pastor Dalton was in our campus ministry, and Aiden used to call Pastor Dalton his big brother. That used to be his big brother because, Pastor Dalton would be over at our house and we would see him multiple times a week. And you don't even know how cool it is. And as a dad, to now have Pastor, Aiden to call Dalton, Pastor Dalton, when he, and when he used to call him big brother, right? He used to call him big brother, but now he gets to call him pastor. And it's that level of influence, and he, and I know that Pastor Dalton takes that title and with a lot, wears that with honor and wears that badge with respect, because it's important, because it's a person of influence. You have influence. Make sure you're living a life worth imitating, living a life that will point those looking to you as an authority figure, because you're older, you've been there, you've done it. They're going to look to you for advice through the way you live, just not just by what you say. Living a life that's going to point them straight to Jesus. You are an influence. Conduct yourself with honor and respect. And today, as we bring this plane into a landing, I want to go back to the passage in Hebrews, right? I want to end with the way the Apostle Paul did. Discipline. He said, produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who've been trained by it. A harvest of righteousness and peace. Discipline's going to produce people who are morally right. Discipline's going to produce people who are free from guilt. Discipline is going to produce people who are free from sin. You want to know how to get past all of those dumb choices you keep making? All of the, the alcoholism that keeps ruining your life, the pornography that keeps just overwhelming you, and the temptations. You want to know how to get through them? Discipline yourself to follow Jesus, and discipline yourself to let a spiritual influence into your life have some spiritual authority into not just your spiritual life, but your everyday life. And if you're apprehensive about healthy discipline, because I'm sure there's some of you out there that you're like, oh, I don't know what healthy discipline is, and I'm nervous about it in my life. I'm nervous about what healthy discipline looks in my kids' life. It's time for a StayCation, right? It is time for a StayCation. And if you have abused that authority, right? If you have abused the authority you have in disciplining your kids, right? It's time for a StayCation. You know, if you have not taken that role, it's time for a StayCation. If you have overindulged in the role of discipline and gone and abused that authority, it's time for a StayCation. But the great thing about the love of Christ and the authority that he's given to us is it's not too late to hit that reset button. It's not too late to apologize for your inaction. If you haven't taken that role, it's not too late to apologize and change. You know what? You should. If you have not been a good disciplinarian for your kids, you should tell them that. Be honest. Don't just immediately course correct and change everything. Be honest. Tell them, I have messed up. I screwed up, and here's why. It's also not too late to apologize for your overreaction, right? If you have overreacted and you have abused your authority figure as mom, as dad, apologize for it. Be honest. Your kids may not like your discipline today, but I remind you, your role as a parent is not to do things your kids like. Your role and your responsibility is to raise your kids up in an environment where they can grow into fully developed followers of Jesus. Because if you do that, you will have raised kids who very simply, man, they're life-giving, they're compassionate, they're generous, they're loving. They're going to steward their finances well. They're going to dwell as human beings and as followers of Jesus. I hope you get this. They're going to dwell in a life of righteousness and live in peace. Isn't that what you want? What do you want to be said about your kids? What better thing to be said about your kids, and what better legacy than you can leave than to leave raise kids who are life-giving, who are compassionate and generous and loving, who take care of their financial, obligations. They steward their resources well. They dwell in righteousness and they live in peace. If that's not where you're at today, it's time for a StayCation with discipline. It's going to be tough, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. It's not going to be pleasant. But your kids need it. Your kids need it. And the reality is, so do you. Let's pray. Today, God, help us be people who understand healthy discipline. Lord, for those around us, Lord, that maybe we don't have kids, let us understand what that looks like. Let us have a feeling, Lord, of what kind of influential role we can be. But God, I specifically want to pray today for moms and dads who are watching our online service today, who have not taken that role of authority in their kids' life. They have spent so much time being their kid's friend, they didn't realize that they are supposed to be the kid's authority. That God, I know that the world has made it really tough to know where the balance between abusive discipline and healthy discipline lies. But God, you clearly tell us in your word that God, you discipline those who you love. And it is through that discipline that we learn the value of that relationship. That God, I know I can speak for myself and think back to the times that I remember the most with my mom and my dad were times where they had to do behavior correction. But God, they did it in a way that was loving. They did it in a way that made me know that they really cared for me. I didn't enjoy the consequences. I didn't enjoy their reaction, and I didn't enjoy what came after that. But God, now that I look back as an adult, as a husband, as a dad, I look back and I'm grateful that I was raised in an environment that pushed me to be a better follower of you. Because God, if I'm a better follower of you, then God, I'm going to be a better citizen. I'm going to be a better student. I'm going to be a more productive member of society. I'm going to be a healthy, serving, loving, giving kind of person who attends church. Because God, I'm going to have every characteristic and DNA trait that you have. Help us parents realize that our greatest responsibility, our greatest title is to be mom and to be dad. God, help us wear that badge with honor. Help us wear that title with authority, wear that title with respect. Lord, give us the encouragement, challenge us to do what is necessary to speak discipline, to speak love, to speak life into our kids. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Hey, friends, I so appreciate you joining us for Anchor Church Online today. I really hope that Pastor Alex's message spoke to you. I know it did for me, especially as a parent. Just the whole idea of discipline, it can be really tricky as a parent, but it's important, and it's something that God teaches us. It's something He does in our life, and it's something He expects us to put into practice as well as the leaders in our home. So, like I said, I hope that it spoke to you as well. You know, regardless of whether you're a parent or not, like Pastor Alex said, these are biblical principles that we can all put into practice. Want to just real quick wish you a great Memorial Day. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I encourage you, take some time, whether it be today or tomorrow, as a family to really honor the men and women who have given the ultimate sacrifice for you and I here in this country. Thank you again for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your morning, out of your day to join us here for Anchor Church Online. Let us know if there's anything we can be praying for you about, if there's something we can be encouraging you in. Send us a message or drop us a comment below. We would love to be praying for you, to walk with you through whatever you're walking through. We're here for you. Our leadership team is available. All you got to do is just send us a message or drop us a comment. We would love to do that. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.